breakfast? Refreshed after the break? The topic for today's discussion is psychological first aid. Is this looks familiar? What is meant by aid? What is meant by aid? Help. First aid? Basic, primary, immediate, instant, okay. Initial, instant, okay. Psychological? What major aspects will come when we say psychological? Behavioral, okay. Emotional. Cognitive, okay. So you are focusing on cognitive, emotional and behavioral. So you are helping a person, you are providing initial or instant help in all these areas. Okay? Fine. All of you are familiar with medical first aid. You may have a first aid room in your college or first aid box in your department. Okay. Okay, I'll come to that. So, I hope we can discuss these aspects. What is meant by psychological first aid, which I have told you now itself. Who is psychological first aid for? For whom we should give this? When is PFA provided? When do we give psychological first aid? Where do we give, or where is PFA provided? Who all can provide this? How do we give it? Do's and don'ts, skills and techniques, and benefits. Okay? My slides won't be so attractive. I know it's not very good to say an excuse, but like I've said, I was also running, so I got less time to prepare my slides. So, please cooperate with that. So, what is psychological first aid? According to Sphere 2011, psychological first aid describes a human supportive response to fellow human being who is suffering and who may need support. So, somebody who is suffering and who needs support, and you are providing that person a human support. What is meant by human? When we say that human supportive response, what is this human supportive response? Empathetic. Then, what else? What are considered as human qualities? Compassion. Kind. Yeah, very good. Humanity. Yeah. So, one more. Benevolence. So, we have big terms to describe human. So, these are the things which we are doing in psychological first aid. There is no big deal. Nothing big. But this has wonderful benefits. And all of you who are sitting here can do this. All of you. I think probably we'll have first year psychology students here. Even you can do this. Okay? So it covers both. We spoke about psychological support. We told cognitive, behavioral and emotional. So along with that, it also includes social support. You also connect them to social connectivity, to their relatives, to people they are close to, people they can help, to people who can help them, all that. It is an alternative to psychological debriefing. So this was the procedure which were prevalent or which were used earlier, psychological debriefing. It included just allowing the person to ventilate the experiences which they have gone through or the traumatic experience they had been through. Nothing beyond that. And which was usually done in many of the crisis situations. So there were studies which shows that psychological debriefing is limited, probably limited to just one session. And psychological first aid is much more beneficial or much more better and provides more improvement than psychological debriefing. We know ventilation or catharsis is very effective. It gives people to regain their self-control, to understand things in much better manner. But psychological first aid is little beyond that. Okay. And why this topic is very relevant in the present scenario? Why your teachers choose a topic like this, or why this topic is important in the present social scenario? In my first 30 years of life, I haven't experienced any natural disaster, any pandemic. But in the last 10-15 years, we have experienced so many natural disasters, pandemic. So, these are the occasions which it really, psychological first aid becomes very important and very essential. But that doesn't mean that it cannot be given to people who are in distress due to other reasons. Okay? So, in the past 15 years, we have experienced a lot of. Is there anyone from Gujarat? Here? Anywhere near Bhuj? No. Yes. How was your experience? There are people who ran away from that place and left their job, being so fearful to go back and take up jobs. There was a person from my place who was working there, who was willing to go back, but the wife and family, children were not at all willing to go back. And that was it has produced a lot of impact in people. And people in Kerala probably may be like, oh, it's something happening somewhere. We have no connecting. Since I was in Bangalore, I came to know about this because some of my colleagues were from that place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given much importance to that. But after COVID has come, after flood has come, people have become more concerned. Oki has come, tsunami has come. People have become more and more aware of natural disasters and crisis situations. And there are courses in India which offers disaster management. People are always keeping ready a team to manage disasters. Disaster teams have been formed in many of the places. So things are changing. That is why this topic is so important. So we'll move on to the next one. Themes of psychological first aid. Just have an overview. Providing practical care and support. Assessing needs and concerns. Helping people to address their basic needs. Food, water, information. Listening to people but not pressuring them to talk. Comforting people and helping them to feel calm. Helping people connect to information, services and social supports, protecting people from further harm. We'll discuss this. Who is for psychological first aid? Who is psychological first aid for? Whom will we give this? Anybody experiencing distress and has difficulty to cope. Anyone. Though it's very prominent or very relevant in situations like war, natural disasters, war. Now a war is going on. Any idea where is it? Russia, Ukraine. Has it stopped or it's still continuing? But is it becomes a news in any of the news channels or newspapers? Is it? We were worried till probably our Indians worried about Indian students, and when they have come back or if something is going on for a long period of time, then it has become a part of life. It's something like that. Okay, so war, natural disasters, I've told you, accidents. Few days back, there was a terrible accident which many of us would have felt so bad about, and which has hindered tour plans of many schools, colleges, all that. Night at 9:30, 10 p.m., both my kids were planning to go on trip next day, and they got the message that their tour is cancelled. Okay, so, but what kind of an impact it has created to those people who have lost their beloved ones? And how many of them will have continued mental health problems? Will they all recover completely from that ever? Okay, every festival, every celebration, they'll be missing their beloved ones. Every day they'll be missing them. And it's a immense struggle they have to go through in order to cope up with such a loss. And its impact may not go away completely at any point in time in their life. Interpersonal violence, sexual, physical, psychological abuse, we tend to hear this every day. When we hear about psychological first aid, we may think of only war, natural disasters, and big things like that. But need not be. Interpersonal conflict. We recently hear a lot of romantic failures and the issues related to that. And what happens if a person withdraws from a romantic relationship and the reactions from the other person, it's like, it has changed a lot. People are trying to people are trying to burn their lovers. So it has become, engaging in a relationship is kind of fearful thing now. If you leave a relationship, you are not sure whether you will be attacked later. You all would have seen the movie Uyire, isn't it? At least Malayali students would have seen it. I think it has been, it was there in other languages also. So there are, or even a ragging experience, a new student who comes to college and experience ragging. It's very difficult for them to take it. That may be a situation or a trauma which they experience. So it can be break in relationship, academic failure. I remember a boy who came to me, who came crying. He just came out of the internal exam and he couldn't do it well. And there were some issues between his friends and with his mother. With all these put together, he was not able to take it. A third-year boy who was crying literally, and people in my department were asking, why this boy is crying so badly? What happened? Is there anything major thing happened? There was no major issues in his life actually, if you look at. But for a moment he broke down. But since we could offer proper help at that moment, he didn't continue to carry this problem, or he didn't continue to have mental health issues further. Then there was another girl who came looking for another teacher in the department, again crying. I don't know what her issue was, but we provided psychological first aid. I didn't know that it was psychological first aid at that time, but we made her calm, offered her help, asked her to breathe slowly, and put her at ease, contacted the teacher, and the teacher came and took over. And that has actually made a lot easier to her to resolve that issue which she had in. Then another case which I remember, a boy who had come. He was very anxious. He himself doesn't know why he is anxious. He looks very perplexed and anxious, and I wasn't very sure what is happening. I asked him, is there any usual possibilities of anxiety? I asked him. I couldn't find any. And suddenly I had this thought, whether he was using drugs. Is it a drug withdrawal? And it was correct. He was using cannabis, and somehow he didn't get it. And cannabis has a very severe withdrawal anxiety reaction in some people. He was very anxious. We didn't know what to do with him, that kind of he doesn't know where to go, what to do, such kind of a situation. And helping him to understand what is happening to him. He couldn't even relate that to the cannabis. And further referring him for help. That actually helped him further in his life. And during COVID pandemic, there are a lot of people who were affected. Probably in our college was one of the centers, almost 12,000 people were accommodated. Sorry, not COVID, during flood. Around 12,000 people were accommodated in the college. And we went and spoke to many of them. We divided into groups and spoke to many of these people. And probably around 5% or 2% of people were in a psychological trauma. Other people, we all have resilience. We all will adapt to situations in an effective way. We have the potential to do that. Only thing is you probably need just a little support. And there was one lady who was sitting, who was not talking at all. And just crying. And other people are like running around for things, materials, all that. But this lady was just sitting. And this is again another case where you can provide psychological first aid. So, break in relationships. All of you would have given some kind of a psychological first aid to some of your friends. When they broke in their relationships, when they had a severe conflict with some of their friends, or when they got nicely from their teachers, many such situations. Okay? Academic failure, academic pressure, death of loved ones, life-threatening illnesses to self or loved ones. If I say examples for all these, then it will take time. Long-term, those who are providing long-term care for chronically ill or differently abled, there are points at which they can move to a breakdown because of long-term care, support, not getting a room for their own activities, recharging their batteries, all that. Experience of sudden memory loss. Imagine a person who is in the beginning of Alzheimer's or dementia, who lost his way. He was a person who used to travel on his own, but he is not able to identify his way back home. How difficult it is for that person. So psychological first aid is something which can be given to anybody who is experiencing a crisis, anybody who is experiencing a trauma, anybody who is in distress. Do not force help on people who do not want it. You can't force people to take help. You can just tell them that help is available, try to take it. Okay? And yeah, I would like to mention one more case connected to this. One girl, one of our students, PG student, who came very disturbed one morning. And when we asked her, first time she was traveling in bus, till then she had traveled only by car or with some family members. And she experienced frettourism. What is frettourism? Anyone? It is a paraphilic disorder or sexual deviant disorder. Now you got it? Oh, you don't want to say what it is. No idea? She was traveling in bus and one person who was standing behind and rubbed his genitals on her buttocks. This is what happened. And she became terribly afraid and felt very bad about it. And she was literally shivering when she came. PG student, you imagine. What kind of self-help skills and protection skills or that we develop through education? That is what I thought first. And it took really some time to make her calm down, help her to understand that there is nothing wrong from her part, all that. So there are several incidents. Why I said this is there are several incidents, several situations where you can offer or whom you can offer psychological first aid. When do we offer psychological first aid? Immediately after an event. Sometimes even days or weeks after, depending on how long the event lasted and how severe it was. If it lasts for a long period of time, war is going on for a long period of time. So you may have to continue with psychological first aid, need not be immediately after the event. And if it's a severe event, probably you may need to continue with, sometimes it's just one session, sometimes it need to continue for some time. Where do we give it? It can be in community setting, scene of an accident, in school shelters or camps where victims of disasters have been assembled. It can even be home, at home when a parent is abusing a child, abusing your sibling, or when your mother or father experiencing domestic violence. It can be in classrooms, any place where distressed people are seen. It needs certain level of privacy. Who all can provide? Anyone with a heart to help and support people. Need not be a professional. Anybody who can behave in a humane manner. We said what is meant by humane. Anybody who can behave in that way. Need not be professional. If you have professional degrees, if you have professional knowledge, you can do it in much better way. But looking at the number of people who are experiencing or who are in need of PFA, we can't always say that it can be given only by people who are professionals. You know that when COVID began, the professionals trained a lot of people, including laymen, including people who are working in different fields, to reach out to people who are in isolation. Our students have made almost 500 to 1,000 calls to people who are in isolation. So there, the laymen were trained in order to reach out to these people. Okay. What are the factors influencing responses to crisis? I am not talking about the stress, eustress, distress, trauma, acute stress, all that. We don't have to go to the definitions of that. See, hello? Oh, sorry. Why I am saying this? Mainly because when you reach out to people, these are the factors which are influencing the responses to crisis. People's responses to crisis. We know that everyone who has experienced trauma will develop psychological problems. They will not develop. Some of them, even if we think about flood, probably 2% of people would have developed psychological problems following flood. If we look at COVID, probably 5 to 10% of people would have developed psychological difficulties due to COVID. Everyone who were in isolation didn't have a problem. Only few people had problems. So what determines the response? The nature and severity of the stress they experience. If it's violent crimes, violent trauma, the impact will be more. Experience with previous distressing events. If they had been through, it can have two kinds of effect. If they had been through very severe distressing, moderate level of stress, distressing events in their life, probably they can gain a strength to overcome or to face any kind of further distressing events. But it's not true with everyone's case. And it's again only people if they are experiencing moderate level of stress. Severe stress, severe trauma, and one after the other if trauma occurs, these all can increase the impact of this distressing event. Next is support they have in their life from others. Social support is one of the biggest things which decide people's response to trauma and their recovery from trauma. That's a very biggest. Their physical health, we all know that if you are not in a good health, then it will become very difficult for you if you experience some kind of stress. But if you physically fit, then probably you will be able to take it little better. Personal and family history of mental health problems. Earlier mental health problems if one of the family members, then naturally by hereditary, they would have probably acquired some kind of vulnerability to develop mental health issues. Then their cultural background and tradition. Certain cultures will help you to get out of trauma. Most of the religions, most of the cultures have a mourning period or grieving period. Why do we have that? After death of a loved one, most of the cultures and I think most of the religions have a grieving period. Sometimes it may be 7 days, 16 days, 40 days. Why do we have that? What is the purpose? It's just a ritual. Is it? It gives people space and time to get out of it. Then age. Children, economically backward people, those who are discriminated ones, marginalized people, they all may have great difficulty compared to the other group. Responses to crisis. How do people respond to crisis? They can be numb, social discomfort and withdrawal, fear, exhaustion, disconnection from others, hopelessness, guilt. People may completely avoid social gathering. Sometimes there are people who lose their beloved ones, they don't want to see anyone. They completely shut off from everyone. Will not pick up anybody's calls. Will not talk to anyone. For some people, talking to others may be very helpful. For some, they are not at all willing to talk. Sudden outburst of anger. This outburst of anger, it's little more difficult to deal with or unexpected. If a trauma occurs, natural expectation is you need to be sad, you need to be upset, you need to be crying, or you need to be in a shock or denial phase. And even in that accident, there were scenes which shows a mother saying goodbye to his son. Like this, she was showing like this to say goodbye to her son, with holding on to her emotions so much. Inability to care for oneself. There are people who just sit, don't eat, don't change dress, will not change dress, will not eat, will not take bath. They kind of completely disinterest in self-care or inability to care for oneself. Even if they want to, they are not able to. Insomnia. What is insomnia? Sleeplessness. How many kinds of insomnia are there? Initial, middle, terminal. What are these terms? Anybody? Initial means difficulty to fall asleep. Middle means getting up in between sleep and difficulty to sleep further. Terminal, get up early in the morning and not able to sleep after that. Okay. Hypersensitivity to criticism, hypersensitivity to rejection, hypersensitivity to noise. Sometimes after trauma, people don't like to hear loud noise. If you put music, they'll get irritated. Intense nightmares, for some, the trauma may be, they kind of flashbacks of trauma may be coming, or it can be nightmares also. Problems, focusing, they have difficulty in focusing on their difficulties. So how to provide help? How do we help them? What is meant by that? What do we do when we are giving psychological first aid? So, can anyone tell your experience that you helped your friend, sibling, or somebody when they were feeling very difficult, when they were feeling very upset? Can anyone share? Has anybody helped like that? Helped anyone like that? Raise your hands. Okay. Can you please tell what was your experience?
My colleague was going through divorce phase. So first she was really disconnected from the social. She was not really ready to speak to anybody. She was in the room. So when the parents called me and I went to see her, she reacted, when I first entered in the room, she reacted very aggressively. She threw her things around the room. She was not ready to talk to me, and I helped her to breathe and grounding techniques. I knew one grounding techniques, so I tried to help her in the grounding techniques. And then after many hours sitting with her, just sitting with her, she gradually opened her mind, told her, she ventilated her emotions and feelings. That's how I helped. And further, I took her to psychological help for further.
Okay. What's your name?
Nisha.
Give her a clap. Very good job. So you got how psychological first aid can be given in actual experience. Anyone else want to share? There was one more person who was raising hand. These are much more effective than what I speak from here. Sharing your experience. Anyone else would like to share? I'm sure that all of you would have done some kind of a psychological first aid to some of your beloved ones. Nobody wants to share? Okay. Yeah.
Ma'am, once I was in contact with a friend. He's in IIT BHU, a professor. So the problem was, he and his wife, they were facing some problems in their marriage. They actually had a kid of 2 years, a boy. The problem was both of them were belonging to a prestigious community of jobs. Like he was a lecturer at IIT BHU and his wife was a engineer. So she also passed IIT by Kharagpur. So she was doing her CS, computer science, and she's a software engineer now. So the problem was they were not able to give time to each other. So he came to me and he spoke up to me like, how can we resolve this thing? I just told him that you particularly have a time daily, the particular time you can spend together, in the evening or afternoons. So they're like, we get office calls at evening. And also I just suggested them that keep your phones aside for a time. Like 3 hours before bed, you should keep your phones aside so you both can have a conversation together. And giving time to the kid, actually what happened was that they were, the whole responsibility of that kid was given to his Masi because they both were working, and because of this COVID period, the teaching was like online to all the students. So the batches divided or distributed to him were like evening batches. So in the afternoon, his wife was supposed to have work of her office, work from home, and in the evening he was supposed to have his lectures. So the problem was this. Being together for too long in the lockdown period, they actually faced this problem of not communicating. So they were facing problems to give time to his kid and his wife. So I suggested that keep your phones aside for a time, shift your classes for some time, talk to each other. And after they did this, they actually, this problem got resolved with time. And now they are actually having a quite better life than they were having earlier.
Okay, very good. Excellent. And this is again a different kind of psychology. Somebody has come to you for help. There she was reaching out to them and providing help. So two different. And again, one more thing I would like to say from both these cases. In the morning, Rashmi ma'am was saying that we need to start our work, or we need to act as psychology, or bit of psychological interventions, or bit of psychological help from the day you enter the college itself, from the day you start your course. Don't think that once you learn everything, you can go and practice. You learn by doing. So try to talk to people who have difficulty. There may be a neighbor who is facing a problem. There may be a friend who is having a problem. Your own sibling may be finding it difficult to cope with studies, or your mother wants to share something with you. So try to do some amount of help, some level of psychological help or first aid to people who are in need of it. That is when you get a hold on it. Then you know, okay, there's something, what should I do next? You will go and check with your teachers. You will go and read books and see what is to be done next. Now there are so much of facility to get information. Start doing it today onwards if you haven't done it earlier. That is when you will learn to practice, especially those who want to come to the field of clinical work, intervention work. Try doing it. And even if those who want to go for teaching, they also have to do it, because students will come and approach you. The moment that you are known as a psychologist or a psychology student, people will come approach you with their problems. Okay? So, approach. How to provide help? First one is approach. Approach people respectfully and according to their culture. You need to approach people, respect them, because they now look at the person who has asked him for help. He is an IIT professor. You may be seeing people from different positions. All of a sudden, they would have lost everything in their life, which you would have seen in many of the natural disasters. So respect their condition, respect them as they are human beings, and behave according to their culture. We may have to take care of our dressing, the way we talk to, how much close you can be with them. All these you may have to look at. Approach people respectfully and according to their culture. You need to establish a rapport with them. Introduce yourself by name and organization. If you are part of an organization to reach out to these people, then introduce yourself and your name of, otherwise introduce yourself. Ask if you can provide help. This can be asked to people who are at least in a state they can talk to you. There are people who may not even able to do that, quite numb. Like I've told you about a person who is a flood victim, who sits in a corner. She doesn't talk at all. She just cries. She will not reach out to you for help. She is not going to collect food. She is not going to collect dresses. She is just simply sitting. In such situations, probably asking them whether they need help may not work out. You may have to sit with them and, as what she said, probably make them feel calm, help them to ventilate, and help them to reach to a stage where they can ask for help, where they can voice out their need. If possible, find a safe place, safe and quiet place to talk, which may not be possible in the case of natural disasters. You may have to sit in a corner, or you may have to stand little away from the crowd and talk to people. Help the person feel comfortable. Offer water if you can. So, basic necessities, make them sit down if possible. Offer them water. Like, try to keep the person safe. Sometimes there may be media attacks, or maybe people who are bombarding questions on the person. So there can be many such, or somebody who is taking advantage of the person at that point in time. So try to keep the person safe. Remove the person from immediate danger if it is safe to do so. And if you can remove the person from there to a different, like from the exact place of the trauma to some other place, so that the person will not witness the subsequent issues or subsequent problems or the agonies. Try to protect the person from exposure to the media for their privacy and dignity as far as possible. If the person is very distressed, try to make sure that you are not alone. So, in the case of the COVID flood victim, you sit near to the person and make them assure them that they are not alone. There are people with you. Second one, ask. Find out their needs and concerns. Do they want food? Do they need to call someone? Example, the recent accident which has occurred. There are people who were not aware what has exactly happened. Ask them, do they want to call somebody? Do they want to inform someone? Do they want to talk? What are their needs? How many people? Not like bombarding questions to them. Ask softly, lightly. Try to understand what is the situation. Help them to prioritize their needs. What do they want to first? What is their first need? What do they want to do first? Probably they want to drink little water. They want to move away from this site. They don't want to see. Or they want to call someone. Or they want to know that whether their beloved one is alive or not. So what is their prime need? Help them to prioritize their need. And if these needs are satisfied one by one, then they'll have little more control over the situation. Listen. Active listening itself is considered as a counseling. You need to listen to people. How do you listen? How do you know that people are listening to you? Putting this slide, asking the question is not the correct way, I know. But how do you know? Have you heard this SOLAR? What is R stands for? I think it's for respect. I wanted to check it out, that is why I put it as R. Then I forgot. Anybody knows what is R? Somebody is checking it right now, so we'll get the answer soon. Okay. So, yes. Rapport. Oh, so, thank you. Rapport should come early actually. So, SOLAR, sitting squarely. Sitting squarely means what? You can sit next to them, need not be always squarely. You can sit like one person sitting, you can sit on the side next to the person or face to face, both. In most of the foreign sessions, you see sitting squarely. That is, it's like a corner portion where the client will be sitting on one side and next corner, next on the, not like our Indian scenario where the client and the practitioner sit opposite to each other. And there won't be any table and all in the case of usually what we see in foreign scenario. But Indians are comfortable with a table or some kind of a or a teapoy or something in between. Open posture. What is meant by open posture? Don't cross your arms or legs because that's an indication of resistance. So, open posture. You can sit close to them in an open posture. Leaning forward. You move little forward to them and see, like you are listening to them. You are curious to know what they are saying. That indication is there from your non-verbal gestures. Eye contact. Eye contact doesn't mean like you should look at them, stare at them. That is not what meant by eye contact. You need to maintain proper eye contact. If you stare at them, and in some cultures, as you know, eye contact is, looking at eyes is not advisable or not accepted. So, maintain proper eye contact, nodding and your facial expression, body posture, all this should convey that you are interested, you are actively listening to the person. See, in between, if you are taking your phone and talking to somebody, or you are arranging your dress, or you are picking up things from here and there, all these will give an indication that you are not interested in the person. So if you have time to listen to another person, go for that. Otherwise, don't try to do it. Okay. So all your facial expression, nodding, postures, all this should indicate that you are listening to the person. You are interested to hear the person. Learn to listen with your eyes, giving the person your undivided attention, ears, truly hearing their concerns, and heart, that is with caring and showing respect. See, your expressions on your face will tell them that whether you are listening with the heart, whether you are genuine. You are hearing a traumatic event, but your face is like blunt, no emotions at all, blunted affect. There are no emotions, emotionless, you don't show any. Then it indicates that, okay, either you are too much distressed or you are not interested in the person. So, a caring and showing respect. Help them to feel calm. This is something, sometimes you may have to do this first, then moving on to other aspects. Helping them to feel calm. That is what, I forgot your name. Nisha, what Nisha had done. Make them feel calm. Keep your tone of voice calm and soft. Remind them that they are safe and you are there to help them. You are there. Whatever they need, you are safe. And you are there to help them. They are safe. Nobody is going to attack them further. Nothing is going to happen to them further at this moment. And remind them that, place and feel their feet on the floor. Sometimes they may be very anxious, very upset. So you make them keep their foot, place their feet on the floor. Make them feel the texture of the floor. Tap their fingers or hands on their lap. Slowly ask them to tap their fingers or hands on their lap. And help them to notice some non-distressing things in the surrounding environment. Like what they can see, they can probably see a bird flying, they can see a flower, some greenery, or hear or feel. So it's almost like bringing them back to a reality, or bringing them back to a orientation to the surroundings, especially if they are extremely distressed, extremely disoriented, helping them to be very calm. Encourage, this is what I've said, the person was not, in the both, two students who had come with problems, this is what we did first. Gave them little water, asked them to sit, feel calm. You are in a comfortable place right now. Breathe slowly. Focus on their breathing and slow breathing and be calm. You are in a safe place. So, helping them to, or slowly in a soft voice, telling them, being with them, that will make them feel calm. Okay. Help people address basic needs and access service. Food, water, shelter, sanitation. Being a psychologist, don't think that you are not supposed to do all this. I'll sit in a room, talk to my client, like what morning the guest was saying, I won't go beyond this. I'll not reach out to people. That is not our role always. You can do that, but you also have other ways to help reach out to people. So you can arrange, sometimes you yourself may go and get a glass of water, get food for them. Or you can ask people to bring food or water or whatever. You can be with the person, you can ask your colleague to go and get little bit of water. Shelter, sanitation. And during COVID time, that was flood time, that's something which people were quite upset. They were not able to use proper sanitation. So that was one important concern, what to do with. They don't have even a single piece of cloth. And they were women who were menstruating, they don't have sanitary pads. And they were so worried what to do, whom to ask. So there are things which you may have to mobilize when you provide psychological first aid. You cannot say that I am a psychologist, I won't do any of this. You may have to play multiple roles. Then link and follow up. You can link them with people who are providing these things. If you yourself can't go and get it, and make sure that they have got it. Follow it up and find out whether they have got it or not. Then there was another incident which I remember. There were almost 15 to 20 infants were there in our college during that time. And one day, one lady was coming and asking, during the flood time, the baby needs milk. So these are some of the things which probably they want at that point in time. They are different kind of people got affected. Help people cope with the problem. Help people identify supports in their life. Find out. So just help them to find out who can support them, talking to whom will be helpful to them, whom they want to meet, whom they want to talk over phone. Find out past successful strategies. This is only after they have become quite calm, their basic needs have been met, and they are in a little more relaxed state of mind. Now what we are trying to do, we are trying to help them to cope with the situation in a much better manner. So not first time itself. Initially when you meet the person, this is not what you are supposed to do. And when your voice, your talk, your tone, everything need to be in accordance with the situation. You can't get, somebody is narrating their difficulty and you can, then what happened? Can you tell me a little more? This is not how you need to say. You need to ask. Not to satisfy your curiosity, but help them to get over or come out of their feelings, help them to ventilate, all that. So find out past successful strategies. How did they cope with their earlier stressors in life? Somebody would have used praying as a coping mechanism. Someone would have used doing exercise. 2-3 days back, no, few weeks back, one boy in my class told me that I was extremely depressed and I conquered my depression by running. I was wondering, how could he conquer depression by running? Yeah, I was like, I did exercise, and that has actually improved my mental health. That has helped me to come out. Probably there is a theory behind that. We know that physical exercise will improve mental health. Then identify what helps them at this point in time. What helps them? So, helping them, many of them may be feeling very guilty about what has happened. They may think that they are to be punished. So, in the accident also we heard that there was a girl who didn't have money to go for the trip, and her uncle in Gulf gave her the money. So the uncle may be feeling very bad and the family may be feeling very bad. Why did we send her? We shouldn't have sent her. So people may be feeling very guilty about what has happened. So this, and especially if one would have escaped from the trauma or in an accident and the other died. So the survivor's guilt is sometimes it's very, very severe. I could have saved the person. I could have asked the person to sit in this seat. And they were saying that one boy, actually he was sitting behind and he came forward to charge his mobile, came in front to charge his mobile. So people will be like kind of like, okay, that shouldn't have been happened. I should have asked the boy to sit. So a lot of guilt may be there. And identify what helps them, what kind of activity, what kind of strategy helps them. Some people may be interested in talking to one of their friends. Some may just would like to sit and be calm, not talking to anyone. Silence may be helping them little more. So there are different ways to come out of these issues. Encourage positive coping strategies and avoid negative coping strategies. Help them to find out positive ways to cope with their trauma, better ways to cope with this trauma. So initially, with this girl who experienced frettosism, she was feeling very bad initially, but after making her feel calm, comfortable, all that, then she wanted to, next step, like once she has become quite okay with it, the next thing which she wanted is she wanted to complain. So there can be many ways to tackle an event. So because in order to overcome her, like why did I do anything at that point in time? So there is still room for to do something. What are the positive coping strategies? Get enough rest. We need to take rest. Our body needs rest if we are experiencing trauma. Eat as regularly as possible and drink water. Talk and spend time with family and friends. See, many people, as I've told you, may not be interested in talking. Especially if you lost some of your beloved ones. Some people would like to narrate and talk about that person's qualities and how the person behaved and all. But some just sit. They don't want to talk at all. They don't want to recollect the memories, not talk anything about that. But sitting next to that person, being with the person, that gives them an energy. That gives them a positive feel. So, depending on people's reaction, depending the kind of personality people have, we may have to adapt, adjust to our techniques to their responses. Do activities that help you relax. Discuss problems with someone you trust. They can open up. If they are not comfortable opening up to you, let them open up to somebody whom they trust. You can connect to them. You don't have to be like, you should tell me first, then I'll tell others. When you say that or when you think in that way, you are actually trying to satisfy your needs. You want to know, you are curious to know what has happened, why this person can't trust me, why can't they say me? Your friend is quite upset. Yeah, I could have felt the same way when this student came asking for another teacher. Why can't you? Yeah, I am also teaching her. She's a PG student. Why can't you tell me, why do you want to see this particular teacher? You don't have to put your ego in that. You don't have to put your biases in that. What's your primary aim? The person needs to feel better. So don't try to satisfy your curiosity, your ego, your personal biases. You start thinking, oh, whether this person is not liking me. Is that the reason? Or am I not good enough? Don't I have the skills? You don't have to underestimate you for that. If somebody says that I want to talk to another person, you don't have to underestimate you, that you don't have to think that, okay, I'm not good enough. That is why this person wants to talk to someone else. Some people may be comfortable with someone else. They have the right for that. And we also know that we are not comfortable to share everything with everyone. So it's true with others also. So do activities that help you relax. Definitely they need to do some physical activity. Walking, singing, praying, playing with kids. All these are important physical activities. You just walk outside. Just look at the nature. See what is happening. Just listen to birds' voices. If possible. I know everywhere there will not be birds' voices and all, birds' music and all in our present scenario. But whatever, greenery has really a refreshing. And for some people, maybe music. They're quite good at music. And some dance. I wondered when I saw people get relaxed after dancing. It's like, okay, dancing has so much, it makes you people so relaxed. I've seen people when they are stressed up, they throw a party and people come, whole night they dance and after that they are quite okay. I don't know how it happens, but this also happens. So sometimes little bit of aerobic exercises, what is that? Zumba dance. Zumba dance. All that may help people to come out of trauma. Do physical exercise, help others in the crisis and get involved in community activities. So if they are in a disaster setting, they can be helped to, or they can be asked to help others in the setting. If they are little better, so that they also feel, okay, they are able to reach out to people, they are worth for some people. So that will help them to improve their self-esteem, or they have been wanted. Even if they have lost everyone in their life, they are of use to other people. Such kind of thoughts can come in. Negative coping, try to avoid them or caution them from all these negative coping strategies. Don't take drugs, smoke or drink alcohol. Don't sleep all day. Don't work all the time without any rest or relax. Some people may think that, okay, I'll work throughout, then I won't think about any of these things. That's not a very good coping strategy. You can be engaged, but you need to be engaged in both work and leisure activities, not work alone. Because work can again make you more tired and stressed out. Don't isolate yourself from friends and loved ones. Even if they isolate, try to connect them with friends and loved ones. Some people may withdraw, but withdrawal is never going to be a good sign for recovery. People, they may be silent, they don't have to talk, but completely withdrawing from friends and family is not going to be a good sign. Don't neglect personal hygiene. Don't be violent. You can't say that people, like, there is no, like, don't be violent. You can't go and say people that. But help them to be calm. Like what she said, she was her friend was violent when she went to the room. But keeping her calm. And we know the reason behind the violence. You don't have to be angry with them. Why this person is not understanding anything? Why is behaving in this way? There are a lot of people who are going through these kind of difficulties. Why can't they understand? No reasoning will work out at that point in time. No logic, no reasoning. For them, what has happened in their life is the worst thing. Whatever has happened to others, that is not important for them. So don't try to say all that. Give information. Give adequate information about the event. Whether their loved ones are alive or dead. Whether what are the reactions of their family, friends. What are the reactions how are other people going to judge them? After a sexual, so actually try to give them information, their safety, their rights, information about what all rights they have. They have the right not to talk about it. They don't have to say everything to the media. They always have the right to keep things to themselves. Only if they are ready, they can talk. So, about their rights, how to access the services and things they need. How can give adequate information? How can they reach out to services? How can they connect to people? See, this give information was very important when COVID pandemic was going on. People were isolated. When a person was COVID, that person was taken away from the family and put in some hospital. And people were so worried that they have no idea about what is happening to their family members and what is happening to the patient. So information was very important. See, I think some of you are feeling sleepy. I want you all to do an activity, 5 minutes activity. 2 or 3 of you can come and role play a situation where you provide psychological first aid at the end of the session. Okay? So be prepared for that. Okay? So, do not give false information or reassurance. Do not provide false reassurance. Don't say that, okay, everything will be all right. We have a tendency to do that. Yeah, everything will be okay. Don't give. We are sure that nothing is going to be all right. Or everything is not going to be all right. So, you don't have to touch in that area. Let us see. Let time goes. Let us see what happened. So, we should say responses of this sort. Don't give. And where we have correct information, provide that. And I've heard that in UP, one thing they did very well is connecting or providing correct information about people who were admitted during COVID period. And that was very welcoming by the family members. Oh, that was very much welcomed by the family, and they were quite relaxed. Connect with loved ones and social support. Keep families together. If more people in the family are affected, then they can be put together. Contact friends and relatives. Connect to spiritual community if they need. Some people may have spiritual methods of coping. So try to connect them to the spiritual community. They feel very relieved if they talk to their priest or somebody from their spiritual aspect. Bring affected people together to help each other. You can have a group session if they are willing in order to share their experiences and understand what other people are experiencing. And there are people who have similar kind of experiences, all that. Ending help. End session based on the judgment of situation, needs of receiver as well as the help provider. So you can end the session when your own judgment about whether it is time to end the session. Or in case sometimes you may be in an emergency or urgency to go to some other place, then provide them the information that you are not going to be there for some time to some time, and someone else will be taking your charge, introduce them to this person. So these kind of handovers can be done if it's a big disaster kind of crisis situation. Or even if it's a friend who is experienced, you may not be able to sit throughout. So probably, I remember one of our student who was suicidal. The classmates were taking turns to sit with the student and making her feel calm. Inform the other services if the person need any further help. So you have connected them to other services and inform them whether this person needs any further help, how to contact that person, all that. Say goodbye in a positive way by wishing them well. In case of children and adolescents, few things to be taken care of. I'm not going into the details. Children's response depend on their age and developmental stage. Infants may react in one way. Toddlers or early childhood, they may react in different ways. Adolescents may react in different ways. So we need to have an understanding about how children may respond to stress. Children cope better when they have a stable, calm adult around them. If there is an adult, then they feel secure, they feel safe, they may feel there is somebody to take care of them. They won't feel afraid. So they cope. There is a possibility that they cope better. They may regress. Some of the reactions children and adolescents show is they may regress, feel guilty or indifferent. Sometimes they may go back to their previous level of functioning. Or some may feel guilty. Some may be indifferent to this entire thing. So these are all responses of children. Try to shield them from upsetting scenes or stories. Children, as far as possible, keep them away from the site of accident or site of the trauma. And people talking about this, especially if a death occurs, people will be coming and talking about this. So it's better shield the child from such kind of talks. Keep them safe as far as possible. Keep them with family members. Listen to them, talk to them, and play with them. Children improve a lot if they get a room to play. It can be simple games, throwing a ball or sitting. Itself you can do small games which help them to open up their worries. Keep them safe as far as possible. Keep them with family members. Listen, talk, and play. Do's. Respect people's right to make their own decisions. Be aware of and set aside your own biases and prejudices. Make it clear to people that even if they refuse help now, they can still access help in the future. You can't force them to take help, but leave it open. There may be students whom we find very distressing in class. You can say, if you want, you can come and talk to me. Or you talk to some of your friends. But you keep a watch on the person, whether they are getting better or whether they are becoming worse. Respect privacy and keep the person's story confidential. That is again important. Basic, even in psychological first aid, one of the basic ethics which we need to take care is confidentiality of the information which they share. Especially in the case of sexual trauma, physical abuse, interpersonal conflicts, we definitely need to keep things confidential. Behave appropriately by considering the person's culture, age, and gender. If you are meeting an old person, you need to behave appropriately to that person. Behave according to the person's age. Do's. Try to find a quiet place to talk and minimize outside distractions. Stay near the person but keep an appropriate distance depending on their age, gender, and culture. Be patient and calm. Allow for silence. There is no problem in being silent. You can just be with the person. Not to force the person to talk. Let them talk when they are ready to do that. So many times we have a tendency to tell me what happened. Why are you keeping quiet? This is not something we should do when we reach out to people who are in trauma. Provide factual information. Be honest about what you know and don't know. I don't know, but I'll try to find out about that for you. Give information in a way the person can understand. Keep it simple. Don't use jargons and all. Or don't make it like kind of, you are not sure. If you are not sure, say you are not sure about it. Confusing messages. This person said this, the other person said this. Such kind of messages you shouldn't give. Acknowledge how they are feeling. I'm sorry, I can imagine this is very sad for you. Acknowledge the person's strength and how they have helped themselves. So help them to acknowledge that they have the power to help themselves. Or they have gone through different kind of struggles in their past. And they have overcome it. So they have the potential to overcome this also. Don't pressure someone to tell their story. Don't interrupt or rush someone's story. See, I have to go, so you tell me fast. Never do that. If you don't look at your watch while they are saying. If you don't have time, don't open up. Don't ask them to open up. Only if you have enough time to give them, then only you need to open up. If you don't have time, when you have time, you try to open up. Introduce them to somebody who is able to, who has enough time. Don't touch the person if you are not sure if it is appropriate to do so. Some people may not be comfortable touching. Some may be very comfortable in hugging or patting on their shoulder or putting a hand on their lap, all that. Indicating that you are there for them, you care for them. But some may not be comfortable with that. Don't judge what they have or haven't done. Don't accuse them. Oh, you could have done this way, you could have done this way, you please think in this way. No. Or how they are feeling. You shouldn't have, there are many people who are suffering more than that, then why do you feel this way? These are some of the common things people will say. Don't say you shouldn't feel that way or you should feel lucky you survived. Whether you survived or not, what the person is experiencing is more important for the person at that point in time. There are many people try it. But you have lost only your leg or you have just got little injury. But for that person at that point in time, that is not matter. That doesn't matter. Don't make up things you don't know. Don't give false assurance or don't say that, okay, this may be in this way, make up stories about the event. Don't use terms that are too technical. Don't tell them someone else's story. That is again another tendency of humans. You go there, you narrate another person's story. Okay, this person has suffered or I have suffered like this. I overcome this. The other person may not be ready to listen to that at this point. There may be, after a period of time, after they come out of the trauma, little bit of trauma, then probably they may be willing to listen to the other stories. But generally, people don't like it. Main reason is, for them, their trauma is the worst thing at that point. That is very important. What others have felt, what others have experienced, that is not important for them at that point in time. Don't give false promises. Don't talk about your own troubles. That is another thing people will say. Hey, I had this difficulty and I coped with that in this way, like that. Don't think and act as if you must solve all the person's problems for them. You can't solve everything. You just be there to comfort them. Don't take away the person's strength and sense of being able to care for themselves. Hey, you can't do anything. I'll do everything for you. Or I'll call your family members to do everything for you. Emphasize or encourage their strength to cope with situation. Don't say that they can't do anything. If they are able to do a little bit of things, let them do it. Don't talk about people in negative terms, like crazy or mad. These are some of the terms which we may use when our friends having problems. Maybe you're doing it in a casual way, but we don't know how far it is hurting them. Are you going crazy? Are you mad to talk like this? Why are you being so mad about that guy? He has left you, so why do you so much bother about that? These are some of the sentences you may say when somebody is facing a breakup. But that's not the way. So, in nutshell, you care, protect, comfort, support, provide information, connect with people and educate them about normal coping responses. And make them understand that this is not abnormal. Anybody who is undergoing trauma may experience these kinds of things. There is nothing abnormal at this point. People have different responses to trauma. So make them, it's a response to the trauma which they have experienced. You don't have to say or label it what it is or it's abnormal. Don't try to do that. And what are the skills and techniques required? I've told you that this is not a professional, only professionals can do this. Even other people with little bit of human qualities can do this. But those who are professionals, professional skills and techniques, they can do it in a much better way. Empathy, you know what is meant by empathy? What is empathy? We are reaching the end of the session, so what is empathy? Putting yourself in someone else's shoes and understand their difficulties. So does it mean that you will, if somebody is sitting and crying and saying, you will also sit and cry? Is it? You will also, okay, oh, so sad, tears are, it's like one of my students was telling that I went and tried to discuss or told about my problems and finally I had to console the other person. So is that the way? No. What is unconditional positive regard? What is unconditional positive? You have learned all this, especially PG students. Yeah, very good. Accept someone as they are. Don't judge them. They would have done mistakes. They would have done a lot of, maybe they are not acceptable to you. The things which they have done may not be acceptable to you. But give them the consideration that they are human beings. Whatever they have done. Genuineness. Spelling is wrong. Genuineness. What is genuine? You can easily make out the person who talks to you is genuine or not, isn't it? Whether they are really interested in you or not. Can you make out when somebody talks to you? Most of the cases people will be able to. You need to be genuine and sincere in what you are doing. That will be communicated to the other person from your verbal or non-verbal behavior. Your gestures will tell them whether you are genuine or not. Congruence is what? What is meant by congruence? Congruence actually gives an indications of your genuineness as well as your interest in listening to them. What is congruence? Anyone? Congruence. Congruence as a skill of the person, of the therapist. Your verbal and non-verbal behavior should communicate the same thing. There need to be, I am saying that I am interested in you, but at the same time I am looking at my watch. That doesn't give the same message. Active listening, clarification. Clarification only if they are ready. Clarifying what has happened in order to facilitate ventilation. Cathartic effect. So help them to talk about only if they are ready for it. Paraphrasing is what? What is paraphrasing? Restating what they have said in different, similar words or different way. Okay, good. You know all these techniques. Only thing is you have to apply it. You know the theory, so you need to go and to the application. Summarizing, you can do psychological first aid. On the first day itself, you don't have to do the summarizing and all. If you continue to see them and discuss them with little more coping strategies and all, probably you can summarize what you have done in the session. Reflection of feelings, what is that? Like, I understand what you are feeling. You are feeling quite sad about the situation. And you are angry that they have left you here. You are angry with God that He has taken all others and not me. So it said what the feelings they express, you are actually reflecting that back to them in order to make them understand that you care for them. Skills and title has to be changed. So, what are the benefits? Sorry, it's not skills and techniques, it's the benefits. Feeling safe, connected to others, calm and hopeful. Having access to social, physical and emotional support. Feeling able to help themselves as individuals and communities. And most important thing is reduce serious mental health problems. If you provide a psychological first aid at right time, it can definitely reduce further serious mental health problems. Many times, like, we tend to, suppose you just compare it with medical first aid. If you don't do a medical first aid, what can happen? A wound is there, which is not clean, not tied properly. What can happen? What can happen? Infection can occur, and sometimes it may require 2-3 months to recover from the wound. So similarly, if psychological first aid is not given, it can lead to serious mental health issues, and it facilitates long-term recovery. The benefits which they have got, it can sustain for longer period of time. So basically, should we do psychological first aid or not? Yes. For what? For what? For prevent or to prevent further mental health problems, or to help them to stay mentally healthy, facilitate long-term recovery. And one more thing which I forgot to mention is, if you find serious issues with them, refer them to appropriate mental health services. That is what she has mentioned. She spoke to her, provided the psychological first aid, and she knows that from there she doesn't have the skills to handle probably. So she referred the person or connected the person to a psychologist, a professional psychologist. So that need to be done in cases where you feel that there is more issues, there are serious difficulties. Thank you. If you have any queries, any feedback, I'll try my level best to answer. No question means there are two things. Either you haven't understood anything or you have understood everything. No queries? No feedback? You can give feedback also. That's also fine.
Often, sometimes in community, when we connect to spiritual counseling, sometimes I have seen it doesn't give that psychological thing, because people tend to channelize their things or their real reason, real issues to spirituality. sometimes it may cause something like regression or something like that. So it may cause a serious issues in the future. So what should be the apt thing one must do?
Why I said connecting to spiritual is just as a first aid measure, if they can cope, if talking to a spiritual leader, doing some prayer, or something which provide them an immediate help, immediate calmness, not a professional kind of help. For a professional thing, they definitely need to meet a professional person itself.
But that need to be made aware of the because often when we give that spiritual guidance, people then block the psychological.
It again depends on people who are providing the spiritual guidance. Yeah, so that's again important, because if they are not sensible, they may also tell them, because we know that there are stigma associated with going to a professional. Yeah. So family also may be very comfortable connecting to a spiritual person. But if we see a risk of that sort, it's better not to advise or not to connect them spiritual aspects.
Thank you.
Initially itself you can say that this may not be helpful or may not be solved with spiritual guidance. So it's always better to approach professional aspect. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, an average human being may not be able to differentiate between sympathy and empathy. So, how can we, a victim of poor mental health illness, they need empathy rather than sympathy. They don't want sympathy. So, how can we differentiate between sympathy and empathy? Is what I'm asking.
Can you recollect any incident in your life where you could differentiate these two? People are showing sympathy to you or empathy to you? No. Not able to. Anybody? Any incident in your life where you are able to understand this person is showing sympathy to me, or this person is showing empathy to me? Anyone? What happens in sympathy? They feel pity. How do we understand whether this person is feeling pity towards me or whether he is genuinely interested in me? Most of the people who feel pity towards me may be saying the don'ts which I've showed. They may be, oh, so sad, this has happened to you, oh, I feel very bad for this. And along with that, they will also say, oh, many people, there are a lot of people who are suffering much more than this, so you may not have to feel it this way. Or it's like the person is not genuinely willing to do anything for this. They show they are interested in, but they are not actually interested in. Your question is very good. Like how can you judge whether the person is showing empathy? A person who is showing empathy will come, sit next to you, do whatever you really requires, and may not talk much, and they make you aware that they are there for you. But sympathy is more in terms of verbal or non-verbal, like, okay, I feel sad, this has happened. And it's a kind of more of a verbal play. Yeah, I don't know.
An empathetic person, they would be like, okay, they will consider your problem as their own problem, and they'll try to like help you or fix you. right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what is empathy. They'll put themselves in your shoes and try to see the things from your point of view and try to understand you, keeping their balance. That is what I've told you initially itself. They won't cry along with you. A sympathetic person probably will sit and cry with you, along with you. But somebody who is showing empathy may not sit and cry and like that. But they understand you. I understand what you're going through. I know it's very difficult for you. But we need to come out of it. That kind of a thing. I don't know how far I was able to. It's very difficult. Like that is why I've asked you initially itself whether you have understood, whether you have experienced it. One of my experience I can share is a person who came, oh, this is what happened. I never expected that this will happen in your life. It's very sad. So, how are you going to do this? How are you going to cope with this? Oh, it's so sad. It's a curse, probably. So many such things are happening in your life. So, maybe it's a kind of curse, or so it's yeah, whatever you want, you tell me, I'll do. These kinds of. When I was in a critical situation. But there was a person who came, who sat, didn't speak anything, sat for some time, and after some time, he left. But I felt a peace. The other person came and spoke a lot, but this person just came, sat near to me for some time, just held my hand and went off. But I could feel the genuine interest in that person. Compared to the other person who came and spoke a lot. I don't know whether... Anything else? Any other? I think we are running short of time. A quick role play. Can anyone play?